next episode of Oz.
Bye, don't slam the door.
This is the show you don't want to miss.
I think you're going to be nicely surprised by the variety show.
Getting up on stage, kicking them rocks, that's me firing back. I'm just surviving the war, yo. Treating the wounds.
He is not going to get the death penalty.
I'm innocent. Liar! You will burn, Kirk!
It must have been them Sicilians that gave Augustus some drugs.
Every person in this country deserves a fair trial. I cannot be that lawyer for you. You two belong together.
You thought I was dead, didn't you?
While you weeping and wailing, your men are out of control.
Unless our latest appeal is accepted by the court, this hero dies 2 weeks from Thursday.
I'll kill Beach's father. Done.
Guard!
The physical you took last month, I got the results back. I think you should have a seat, James.
Dad's coming to visit?
Not visit.
Exactly.
Welcome to Oz.
Fuck you.
I got my parole in 3 years. Till that point, I'm a hot fucking Gandhi.
You're not getting out of Oz. Not in 3 years, not in 30, not ever.
Beecher knows too much about both of us. He's gotta die.
I've got a plan already. Get Schillinger out of my life forever.
I'd say my chances are 50-50.
There's something I need you to do.
Kill Willie Brent?
Yes. And Leo Glenn.
Leo!
Hello, everybody. I'm back.
The board has decided to grant you parole. You're a free man, Mr. Beecher.
Mr. Idzik.
They're all dead?
Call the State Bioterrorism Unit and clear out the entire complex. Fast!
Next on HBO. Just because they're locked up doesn't necessarily mean this prison is locked down. The all-new final season of the HBO original series, Oz.
It's not TV. It's HBO.
Groundbreaking, critically acclaimed, smash hits, HBO original series. And now...
Yeah, roll tide. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, I will stop right there for what I need. Nah, because if I keep going on, I am just going to have a whole fucking review and we're going to forget about Oz.
Yeah, what the hell are we talking about? We've talked about this show before. We talked about it with a few other Tom Fontana produced shows, and it was pretty positive tribute, but we decided, hey, how about we revisit it? But this time we talk about our favorite moments, our favorite villains, if you will, just to illustrate why this show still stands out over 20 years later.
And I'm curious, you've been in a bunch of different shows.
Right.
Do you ever, go someplace else and then realize, oh, wait, they see my show here? Like, I didn't realize, like you're in Europe and you realize something that they see your show?
Yeah, I actually got a hot tip. I was going to France. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine said, they're showing Oz there now. But the funny thing is they don't pronounce it Oz, they pronounce it ooze. Ooze. Which I found ironic. I was like, oh, yeah, that's great. Okay, so there I am in the Sauvage region of France, which basically translates to the savage region, middle of nowhere, okay? And a waiter comes up to me in a restaurant and he goes, pardon, whatever he said. And he said, you're on that show, are you not? Oz? Right. I said, yeah, I am actually, but pronounced ooze, right? He goes, but here in France we call it Oz. Also, I was set up.
That was
I'm
illegal
on
what you just
Ooze.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of the stars of Ooze.
So if someone's just having fun with you, make sure you call it Ooze
Yeah.
when you're over
Just
there.
say it loud.
That's really fun. I'm on Ooze. I'm on Ooze.
Yeah, I make my living on Ooze.
Crew members of the show, other than being a Levinson Fontana production, is Glenn Kershaw. He's a cinematographer and producer whose work includes Third Watch, Criminal Minds, and Army Wives. Similar. Alex Kakursky. His work includes Person of Interest, Daredevil, and Bosch. And John D. Zagonzak, who's, done probably the most episodes of this. He was previously the cinematographer turned director on Homicide and has done an innumerable amount of episodes of Chicago Fire and the SVU franchise. So,
oh my.
Craig DiBona is also a cinematographer, and he's done a lot more just kind of obscure, kind of independent films. That I think that's what makes this gel. Is they would always get these guys who, no matter the budget and the material, they're going to give it their all. Just never. And I'll let you do your take on what you think of this and everything. But when did you get into this?
Jesus, get into Oz. All right, my first memory of Oz, definitely the original film.
Oh shit!
I mean,
yeah, every other person saw Wizard of Oz growing up. I can't even remember if I even saw it all the way through, but it was on TNT like every other day.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, seeing Tin Man taking over Cowardly Lion and dominating him in the cell. Fuck.
Oh, well, so I guess in another world, if we're taking that illusion, I guess Shirley is actually Dorothy.
Yeah.
She's taking advantage of prison guards, and then basically a Susan Smith gal who's admitting, yeah, I killed my child in the name of Christ, and don't kill me, don't hang me.
Yeah, my first memory of Oz, I was at the library, and I think
that makes sense, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to think.
I think I was looking for. I always find stuff on the dollar shelf because that's where you got all the books and the movies. Everything was $1. And on that shelf was a sealed 3 VHS box set of season 1. Yeah,
Did it
season
have
1
special features like the DVDs?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it was VHS.
Oh, they didn't have something after the feature presentation you sit around for? Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if it had stuff on it, but it was sealed, and I was like, wow, this is valuable. So I bought it for $1.
This is valuable. I like that way that you closed it.
Yeah, and then I got into the series, I guess when I was watching HBO back in, I guess, 2 decades ago, maybe.
Despite
roundabout, and I really liked the series. Like, it was so deep, it was dark, it was metaphorical, it was spiritual, it was very in your face, and I like that. But the one person who stood out the most was the black man.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
I know, right?
Are you talking about Augustus Hill in the wheelchair?
Yeah,
the narrator.
that,
Okay, yeah.
I loved him. He was so good. Just the way he sat at the camera, like it's so intimate because it's a one-on-one between you and him.
Absolutely.
And then it bleeds into the show, and it's like, damn, this is heavy.
And perfect timing. You just came off of Romeo and Juliet and the Best Man franchise, and then you're in this, and then you're Link in the Matrix, and you're on Lost, and
oh yeah, he was in Matrix. I forgot about that.
That's what he was also.
I forget that shit.
I don't know.
Wait. When did Oz come out?
Oz was 97, so that he would have probably been filming
before.
it 2 years later, probably, and then it came out around 03. But yeah,
here's a fun fact: I was watching Casper last night, and
really?
the 90-second. I know, right? But this is good. The 90-second scene between Kat and Casper took 8 months to film.
What?
Back in '95. Yes, 8 months.
8 months.
because it was CGI. It was 95 CGI. 8 months to film a 90-second scene. That's unreal. Versus today, where it would take like what?
Oh, they would have been hounded him. They would have been like, no.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was cool. Yeah.
Now Paranau, yeah, he was in the Marvel anime version where he played the titular character Blade. He,
wow.
But yeah, me and my mother, who was actually a big fan of this, because it just broke genres of it. Like, you know, she wasn't typically into crime stuff, but she just loved just how, acting aside, like it was very Shakespearean, kind of just showing you, hey, this is an experiment and it's gone wrong, and everyone's being dehumanized, who's going to redeem themselves, who's going to get close and then end up dead, or just very poetic in a way. And Paranau, you know, there's a reason.
The word poetic. That's what I'm saying.
Totally. There's a reason he's still killing it. I mean, he's hysterical as the callous pilot in 28 Weeks Later and Sons of Anarchy, and he was on the Constantine TV show. But yeah, I mean, whenever I see him, I know. I mean, he even has a daughter who's acting now.
Oh wow.
I think so many associate him with this just because he has a soul. He's like one of the few with some kind of innocence where you're like, he should get out of here. You know, he should not be in here with all these other guys who are, you know.
And then you find out what he did, and it's like, oh God, he deserves to be in that chair.
You do. I figure he's at least somewhat redeemable compared to so many of the others, you know, and we'll get into so many others, but yes, it is funny seeing them transform. I mean, we see that with Tobias. He's like one of the first ones we see. You know, he's a lawyer, did a hit and run on a you know, young girl, and you think he's gonna get so out of there so fast, and kudos to him. You know, whenever I see Lee Turgeson on another hit TV show, you know, he's been in everything, you know, Longmire, the Weird Science TV show, and Generation Kill. But whenever he pops up, I know.
Oh, that's a good series. Holy shit.
Yep. We're doing a David Simon connection here.
Oh, God.
It was always kind of, even though it's loosely connected to St. Elsewhere and all those other shows, I'm not going to get into that because I've bored you enough with it. But I did always have. No, I promise. No, just this once. But I always found it kind of fun, kind of who's who, like who was on this and also on The Wire.
Yeah.
If you go to Homicide or New York Undercover, that's going to be dead easy. But I mean, like The Wire is like, there's so many of those other minor ones, like J.D. Williams.
And it's amazing too, because HBO is such a melting pot for blockbuster series, and nobody ever talks about them.
I have a theory. I really do. I think like Deadwood, which I actually we saw back to back again in a reevaluation. It's just I think because they have to split the bill with Paramount and it was so expensive to produce, I don't think they ever really valued it, because I think it doesn't help that kind of like how there's some wannabe gangsters who will watch The Sopranos or Wire but not too seriously. Like missing all the serious subtext. I mean, that's fine. Watch what you want to watch, but don't get angry when someone calls you on it and you clearly missed a clear, you know, obvious plot point. But I feel like there was plenty of people who were watching this, but for the shock value, and you're like,
yeah, that's true. Because it was like, oh yeah, it's a bunch of men in prison. Yeah, someone's getting raped. Yeah, I need to see that and prove a point. Look at that
violence, man. Yeah, and then just get the sick. It's kind of like even like South Park is like, are you listening or are you just here to listen to the F-bombs drop?
Pretty much. That's the thing. Like, I'll watch a show, and if it's a cast heavy deal, like I'm like, okay, I have to pay attention to everything that's said and done. And that first
not rewatching those multiple times just to get one subplot.
I know, it's like, fuck, because you watch these shows, and if it's got a massive cast and it's going on for season one always has the foundation. It introduces I've brought this up numerous times. It introduces everybody.
You got to. You don't know if you'll be on. Most people are not like Sean Ryan, where to eliminate the potential of being canceled, they just wrap up every storyline. But yeah, most of them would just do the whole, you know, plot twist in the last 2 to 5 episodes and rely on the renewal orders. Like, you didn't know? Oh.
Yeah, I hate that. And then, you got your introduction characters, you have your plot points introduced with every character, and then you have the season finale with however many episodes it takes to get to it.
Yep.
That has the either cliffhanger, or it has a surprise plot twist, or it has a character death. Now, X-Files is a prime example of this, because X-Files played that so well and kept people coming back because of the cliffhanger finales. It was like, oh shit, Mulder's gone. When's he coming back? Scully's pregnant. When's she having the baby? Where's Mulder at all this time? Where's Mulder?
I got introduced to my buddy Trinity.
Mulder?
He's a big X-Files guy, to where he works in like references to him in his rock music.
Nice.
He's an indie musician, and at one point he started even taking torture scenes from different movies and TV shows and working them in there to illustrate his suffering. I think there was a few scenes of Mulder yelling in pain, as well as Jack Bauer torturing somebody on 24. And so it was
Mulder, help me! Mulder, help me!
Imagine if any aliens burst into this prison and
Jesus
kidnapped
Christ.
everybody. Would they? Who do you think would be first? I think they would reject Vernon because he's a white supremacist, KKK prick. But they might take Jeremiah. They might just swoop up Jeremiah. They're like, you know what? You can be our prophet. You're susceptible. You're easy to convert and take advantage of.
I have to look up the cast.
It's the Luke Perry character, and I think that's what was great, is you're taking all these guys who are good actors but kind of known for like infamous lowbrow kind of.
All I remember is Tobias smearing shit on Chris's face, or it might have been Vernon's. That's all I remember that so vividly, because it was so funny, because it was season 2, maybe he did that.
I think so.
3.
I think yeah.
Because it was
he's
Tobias
had it with them, and that's his move.
Yeah, he was pushed down so hard and comes like, and he's smearing shit in his face, and I'm like, yes, do it.
Absolutely. And to have the Winter brothers, Dean and Scott, they're both accomplished. You've seen them in everything. Dean's still doing those hysterical, mayhem ads, for Progressive. But yeah, it's just so awesome how Ryan
Lance was in this. Holy shit,
Lance!
Wow, Reddick.
Yeah. Remember, he's the crooked undercover cop who then decides to cover up a murder, and then so that
I gotta rewatch this. I don't remember that.
I was actually happy when they did an obituary for it, and that was like one of his listed roles. They didn't just do the hack journalism thing where they just mention the first 2 things that pop up on your IMDb. And it's like, no, they mentioned Oz and the same sentence as Godzilla and John Wick. So it's just like, but yeah, Johnny Basil, I love his art. You don't know where it's going to go, and it's so funny. It's like he's supposed to be rooting out some corruption in the prison, and all it does is just fall back on him. They're like, who killed this guy? I think I know. There's only one guy who was down there, and the narc's not giving us any info. And it's so wild how, the guy he killed was awful, but it's just like, dude, what the fuck?
Dean Winters looks like a Baldwin brother.
I kind of got that growing up from him.
He does. He looks like a Baldwin
when
brother,
I saw him
on
CSI Miami and other shit growing up, one of the Hellraiser movies, I was always just like, yeah, he could be a Billy kind of stand-in kind of guy. Yeah, and
then you look at his name, it's like he's not even related.
No, but
like
nice
Adam
try.
Baldwin, that's even funnier. Like, I'm not related to the Baldwins at all. Like,
I always did that with people growing up. We watched a lot of Chuck, and I would always be like, he's totally related. He's not actually.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch Oz now. Shit. Because I don't remember all the characters.
No,
I only remember the bits and pieces of it.
Everyone often mentions Vernon, Tobias, Keller, and then brings up Warden Glenn, But
yeah, that I remember. I remember
Warden Glenn, though.
Ernie Hudson.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ernie, I love that motherfucker in everything. I mean, I know you just got back from watching the newest Ghostbusters, but it's just like, man, I mean, he is so much more than a Ghostbuster. He has always been a reliable,
Yes.
much like Lance Henriksen and Tony Todd. I would see him in, you know,
Yeah.
B movies and made for TV stuff. Then he had all these other recurring roles in giant, giant
Yeah.
movies like The Crow and what have you. And you're just like, but
Oh,
there's
yes.
something very
Still underrated Crow.
Oh, totally.
Holy fuck.
Hell, he's the best part about Congo, man. But it's just like,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
even when he's not doing that accent, I mean, it was a choice, and he made it. He's got charisma galore, and
Yes.
when you see how old he is, you're like, really? God, he has really figured out his look and everything. He has made a career being police captains and everybody's dad. But I like how here, you know, when he's having to get personal and almost question his double standards when he's going after Kirk Acevedo's, Miguel character, and Kirk, everyone else is going to be like, oh, the fringe Band of Brothers guy. But the great thing about Kirk is he's one of those, he's mixed, but you don't always put together, oh yeah, he's got like some Italian or Hispanic.
Like, it really does show that he's mixed and shit. Like, you can tell.
You can
just
tell
by the
you
way
just
he
don't know
carries
where.
himself and shit. Like, it's easy. Like, look at his last name, shit.
Yeah, Acevedo. But it's so wild how, it's like they're both getting at each other. First, he tries to like commit like suicide by like making himself sick and eating fecal matter, and then he decides, you know what, Leo's punishing me, the warden's punishing me, I'm gonna send my thugs who are on the outside to attack and assault his daughter. And then when he finds that out, he's like, okay, brother, you gonna play that, you are gonna be locked up in solitary for more than the
I
number of
remember
days.
that now.
And I just found that interesting because it does make you wonder how often, just in any kind of society, it's just so wild because the counselor,
That's right.
Tim,
This show made me want to watch Cappadocia. Yes.
Cappadocia?
Yes.
Cappadocia?
The Spanish prison show. That's on HBO. That series. Oh man, that was so good. And I never finished the motherfucker. I got done with season 1 and started 2 and then lost track of it.
Oh wow.
It's so good.
A Place Without Part. I have not seen this show. I will. Thank you.
It's so good, and it has captions. I was so happy for that.
Well, yeah, that's required.
Yeah. Because at first I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I really got into it. I was like, oh, this is really fucking
HBO Latino is pretty awesome.
Like that's why I like HBO, because you have all it's home box office for a reason. Because you get blockbuster films, you get all-star casts in their series that they put out over the decades. They really know how to write a fucking show.
Absolutely.
They have the best comedians. They have some of the best original programming that's not even on there anymore because they lost licensing.
When you see some of them complain, it's just like, really? You don't realize how good you have it.
Word, like the one series I miss the most off of there is Real Sex. I miss that show.
We joke about it every other day.
Not for the perv value, for the educational shit, because that was fun seeing.
It taught me something, but
Taxi Cab Confessions too. Oh my god, that was fun. Wow.
There was something about it. I just would laugh.
It was so organic because you have this taxi cab driver going around, and he's just asking questions, and people that are getting in, and they're like, yeah, and they don't know they're being filmed.
Absolutely. I'm sure they had some lawsuits with some people.
Probably. But it's so
I will look
beautiful.
Up that's awesome. But the thing is, like, someone had to start that off. I mean, especially when Tales from the Crypt, like during a screening of their first few episodes, that's when they came up with their whole motto, it's not TV.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how you brought those up, because but it's so funny how you brought those two up, because like I joke about them like every other episode.
But you look back and it's so fun.
There is, but it's also, you can't describe it. Like when you saw anyone else being edgy or breaking the rules or being naughty, it was kind of just overkill. Somehow when they did it, you felt like a voyeur. You're like, I don't think I should be watching this.
It was like a cheap tit flash. You know?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
true. You don't even feel what you typically feel. You're just like, well, I guess I better
Oh.
follow and see what the fuck just is going on here.
Yeah, it's like all those. A good comparison and example is 2000s unrated films with just, F bombs added, random tit flashes,
Yeah.
nudity. It's just so dumb. It's like, oh, wow.
Seeing if it's makes it better, and when it
No.
doesn't, you're even more pissed. You're like, I spent so much money on it.
Yeah, it was like that one scene in Terminator Salvation Director's Cut with, her being in a tank top wet. I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't do shit. Like, go back to the story.
Right. Story.
I've seen titties. Go away.
It is funny though. Is like sometimes subplots get omitted because of the content, and then other times
Yeah.
you're like, no, it's the same damn movie just with crappy CGI put back in.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen some crappy CGI though.
I wanted absolutely. I wanted to collect these DVDs back in the day, but I just kind of casually got into it during college, and then I kept revisiting parts of it. And I mean, Cappadocia, I will have to check out. I know about the other UK prison shows, Wentworth and Bad Girls. There's also, it's kind of sad, and I don't mean this as a diss because different strokes for different folks, but I
naturally.
I do like Prison Break, but that's a whole different animal.
I never got into that.
It's a like it or hate it. I like it kind of. I don't want to say trashy, but it in kind of a lowbrow way. It is fun escapism. Like it is exciting as fuck. But if you try to put it together, you're gonna be like, what? But I guess I'm not offended because there's so many fun subplots and unusual. Again, same deal here. Just fun characters where you're like, will they redeem themselves, or are they just gonna make off and steal everyone's money or kill a bunch of other people? And the joke among fans is this: every other season is in or out of a prison. But
oh, lovely.
So yeah. Now it makes me wonder what would have happened had they done that with Oz. It's like killers going around like sitting.
That's like Sequest DSV because I did my review on that because season 1 is solid, and then season 2 comes and people have come and gone. And I'm like, okay,
not even
maybe if, and then I finished it and I was like, they left a lot out. Now, if they had gone the route of making it a different cast every time, it would have been a lot.
It would have been more like an anthology instead of. I'm disappointed that you don't respect me as a viewer to explain what you just said.
Yeah, and Roy was pissed. So
Scheider, he was difficult back then, and we like Michael Ironside, especially in a rare role playing a hero. But you're like, can you at least have him like come in say? I mean, Babylon 5 worked it out by just having a lot of other people doing the talking. Other weird shit going on, so they were able to cover up what was otherwise against their will, which was
the budget cutting they did in that show was so smart. Oh god, I love
600,000 an episode. And they're like, okay, so this character takes this person's place, and we're gonna have
this shit. 600K an episode, right?
Yes, that's less. An average Star Trek episode would have been $1 million.
Yeah. This is fun. Here's something funny. When the Monday Night Wars were going on and WCW Thunder was made, each episode of Thunder was $450,000 to make. They took that out of Nitro's budget, and
So the wrestlers really didn't get paid shit.
Oh, there's a lot I have learned since rewatching Reliving the War and random interviews that are done by Bischoff and other wrestlers. The one I learned from Bischoff that really hit home was that during the 2001, it was before that. Turner called him up. The execs called him up, told him he couldn't do what he was originally doing to be raw on the ratings. And that really, he was pissed about that. Then they decided to allocate money that was in Nitro's budget to all these other places because of the Turner AOL merger. Then they took the merger money and losses and put that into Nitro's budget. And it really fucked their funding up. And I was like, damn, because everybody wants to point out NWO killed WCW. I'm like, there's a lot more to it than that. Oof.
That's the cover story, and then you're like, well, half true.
And then it's like there's a lot more to it than just NWO and shit. Like, nah, there's a lot more.
I'm actually surprised they didn't do a wrestling thing on here, because I mean they did boxing ring fights, and then they had them. I mean, it's so funny when they have like HBO cable in the prison. That was so meta. You're like, tonight, G-String Divas. You know, I never watched that, but it was similar to Tactic. We were just like, what? And
I remember Passion Cove and Hot Springs Hotel off Showtime or
Cinemax, but I was surprised that would have been funny had they inserted that and said, look, looking at your sister channel, because it is so funny how, and much like they were doing just what they did with where TNT is supposed to be the higher brow and TBS is the lower brow, playing all the dumb movies and sitcom reruns. And
that reminds me, like, I watched Hot Boys a few years ago.
Oh, with Silk the Shocker and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Now, see, this is a smart film. It's shitty, but it's smart. It's smart
it's fun
terms.
B-action film.
Yeah, it's smart in terms of Master P not only funded all the clothing, but also put up money for the film himself. I'm like, dude, that's fucking smart advertising. Like, he knew what he was doing and actually sponsored his own fucking clothing line.
Well,
and his own
there's a connection
too.
To your wrestling, believe it or not.
A lot of
those.
I just saw that.
A lot of those PM movies were premiered on TNT and HBO, and that was kind of their deal. They're just like, have some wrestling, then we'll have some of these over the top.
Because Master P was on WCW recently. I'm like, wow, I didn't know about that.
Yes, it is actually funny seeing his guest spot on here. So that's around the same time that Method Man is in there, and then like he gets killed as soon as he gets there, basically. And it was kind of just fun. Just it's a shame that Corrupt is in the music video for the show, but he's not in the actual show.
Yeah, I have a few songs off that soundtrack. Funny story: the soundtrack itself is not on iTunes anymore.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck? I'm like,
I think it was there a few years ago, and then I looked for it again, and it came up, and, invalid search. I'm like, well, why do you do this?
I know, I'm so mad.
Burn so crooked. The poet likes to spit. Kareem, that's my dog. Life behind the walls. Living life behind the walls. Yeah, welcome to Oz. Surprise. Keep your head right, keep your game tight. You might not make it through the night. Hold up. This ain't nothing but war in here. We overpacked in here. You put more in here. About to rain like snow and let it all go. Father Ray the cutter. I'm gonna need all the prayers I can get, cause I'm through with this shit. Hit up Tim. Yeah, tell me something good, man. Cause I'm so discombobulated being out the hood. I don't know if it's a bad or a good thing. Missing Cadillac switches in the wood grain. Don't touch on my mattress, it ain't cool. Simon on the yard straight tripping on food. CO so crooked. Come equipped when the shit. Yeah, that's my dog. Light behind the walls. We living light behind the walls. Suckers, welcome to Oz. Surprise. West Coast represent my overdose. One love to my dog behind the wall. Ain't dog and I'm tight for all of y'all. Stand strong, stand tall, and never fall. West Coast represent my overdose. One love to my dog behind the wall. Ain't dog and I'm tight for all of y'all. Stand strong, stand tall, and never fall.
I know this has been a rabbit hole. This has been so much fun.
I try, man.
I know it's only been fucking 28 minutes, and it's like a rabbit hole connecting
It's a rabbit hole. Well, and I think that's why people like it. Is like you go down deep. It's hard just even finding a stopping point. It's so engrossing. Even the other minor characters who are set up but kind of don't get developed until like the following seasons. I thought Enrique probably had the strongest one. He's the mustached Latino inmate. If I give you a photo of him, you'll be like, "Hey, he's the bad guy in Expendables." Enrique.
I'm looking at the cast list on Google.
He's another Dexter guy. And speaking of which, I like how the Moses guy was the surprise motherfucker guy from Dexter also. And maybe that should be your photo. It's like, Moses, let's recast him with Oreo. I did like Father Ray, the priest. who's having to hear all these disturbing reveals, and he's like, I'm not sure who I can redeem.
Oh God, that's all. It's all the priest is usually like the most basic character because it's literally the foundational point of any prison show or any show in particular because
someone who's got to listen to it. I mean, so second Sopranos.
And also you have the one character that does not need a redemption arc, period, because they're already pure of heart. And that appeases to the corporate who decides to green light the series. Like, yes, you have a priest in this. This is good. This appeals to our religious demographic. We're okay. Don't do anything to the religious person at all without our okay or say so.
Bingo.
Yeah. And it's really funny. It's like if you took that same character, gave them layers, and actually had it revealed that they killed somebody. And then they came back and they're like, oh, yes. And it's revealed they killed somebody, but they redeemed themselves. It's like, what? You took somebody that was an untouchable character for so many years and decades and made them bad. Oh, my God. This ties into Bischoff's interview I watched last night about how Cody Rhodes got a partnership with Wheatley Vodka for liquor for WrestleMania 40. It's the official sponsor. And for so long, WWE and WCW could not get an alcoholic sponsor because the demographic was aimed at preteens and teens. And they were afraid of influencing them. This is back in the 80s and 90s. They were trying to get that. They were trying to get Bud, trying to get Coors, whatever other alcohol brand was popular, Miller, all that shit, and they couldn't get it because corporate was afraid of influencing teens and preteens. But they were hitting the 18 to 49 demographic, but they couldn't bring in alcohol or cigarettes for that matter. Think about that. If they got cigarette sponsors, that would have went everywhere. But no, the biggest sponsor they've had over decades is Coca-Cola because they're getting residuals from back then.
For now.
Still.
Yeah.
That's wild. Coke, Pepsi, any other soft drink would get residuals for decades.
Someone was trying to think ahead.
Yeah, and they were pushing for that. Bischoff talked about that. He said they were pushing for alcoholic sponsors, but the higher ups said no because they didn't want to offend the conservative families and preteens and teen demographic and encourage that shit.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's sad, but understandable. But now that it's, 2024 and we're way ahead and we have, real sponsorship now.
Kids are worried about TikTok versus drinking, I think.
But now you look at it and you have all these, you look at UFC and you look at the trunks of all them fighters. They have multiple fucking sponsors on there, from beef jerky to fucking drinks.
It's just like when you're a singer, you got to tour. Otherwise, you get nada from just residuals. But yeah, these
and you got to
guys
find your sponsor and can't piss off the sponsor because if you do that, boom, your tour is fucked.
Do an interview, but know when to shut up before someone takes it out of context and tries to make a clickbait out of you.
I hate these people. Wait, he hates what people? And then you see the full interview. I hate this stuff going on, but these people are really cool. And then they splice together, I hate these people, and put a picture beside it. I'm like, you asshole. It's funny. It's so damn funny. God. I mean, I don't think Oz could be made today because people would be so offended by it. It's super offensive. It's super dark. It's very telling on the human condition.
It's offensive in the way that it's in on the joke, but like you say, like people would love to
rip it apart.
Oh, they totally will. And you can always tell who's gone so far. So why do you think there was like a delay in season 4 getting complete? Why do you think people just got sick of it halfway through and didn't even give the last 2 seasons a chance?
How many seasons were there?
6.
Okay, so that was 2003-ish then?
Yeah.
So 03.
I get that there was other competition, but I see so many people. I don't notice a glimpse of where they're running out of ideas or anything, but I see so many who are just like, fuck it. After Augustus dies, there's nothing good. Like, really?
2003. So that's 2 years after 9/11. So they're buttoning down.
People are now TiVoing, using DVR. The internet's now getting crazy.
Yeah. But you gotta figure, 2003, everything's buttoned down a little bit more, not as graphic, because you have, 9/11 happened. Everything that was political and offensive was
The
cut
Great
down.
Divide begins. I did like how they kept bringing back Jackson Vow, who's a basketball player on parole, and he's played by real life basketball turned actor Rick Fox.
All right, see you later.
I like Rick Fox. He's funny.
He is a funny dude, and I think the reason he worked for this is he's like, man, I'll be out of here before you.
And he's got that look. So
Oh yeah, he's a cool in a Shaq kind of way, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, I could see him be an everyday guy. He just happens to be very tall.
Yeah, definitely. 03. What was? Oh, The Shield came out in 2000. No, that was 2002.
2002. Yeah, so it's The Wire.
So, yeah,
and
The
that
Shield
are
was
on-
pushing that.
Yep, 6 feet.
And nobody
Unders.
talked about The Wire because that just came on, and nobody was talking about it because Oz was still popular.
It had such bad ratings, and yet it was an acclaimed show, and it was a perfect example of just you have got to do your marketing better. I mean, I saw a freaking ad for both those shows, Shield and Wire, as well as the other gripping stuff that was on back in 2002, and so I knew about them. I just get up at 6 in the morning and before I became a night owl, and I was just like, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, then it got to where it's just like, but no one's talking about it. No one's seen it. But
Well, I mean, that's 2002, and the internet's still in its infancy. There's no social media to talk of, not till MySpace dropped years later.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of Biohazard singer Evan Seinfeld being on here as Jazz?
I don't remember Jazz. I
Hey,
know
he
the
had
group
the-
Biohazard.
He
I
had the
love the song
bandana
Judgment
on,
Night.
and he was tattooed. He was, I think, with the Aryan gangs. How about Nino, played by Tony Masante? He was the older Italian boss who was like, he's working with the O'Reilly brothers, and he's like, let's put some glass in the food and kill it so we get rid of those other prisoners.
I mean, that's some dark shit, and that's pretty
It
fucking
is.
smart too.
And then you got freaking Omar Wide, who's been in stuff like.
Oh yeah, I know
just-
Omar. Yeah, he was in Sugar Hill.
Yes.
Oh wow, John Seda was in this. Holy shit.
John who?
John Seda. He was on Homicide.
Yep. The
Oh my God.
Homicide.
Wow.
He had just done Selena, and this is before, yeah, he would join Homicide 2 years later, and then he was on Chicago PD for a bit. But he's been in so many other fun movies like Bad Boys 2, and better yet, so was Otto Sanchez.
Wow.
Who, if I show you, look at a photo of him now, you'll be like, oh yeah, Crazy Eyes. He plays Carmen. You'll be like, that dude. He's been everything. Always got the crazy eyes. And I think he was a cool addition to it just because you never knew. He kind of circles around. You never know what team he's going to be on. And if he's going to be up to trouble or if he's going to instigate something. But yeah, you see him hanging out with both.
Oh yeah, Otto. I remember him. He reminds me. He could be Andy Garcia's twin brother if he wanted.
Absolutely. He
Yeah,
should
it's
have been
like
a stand-in. He's just got the crazy eyes. But yeah, he's hanging out often with Omar and Enrique, and you're just like, yeah, he's up to no good. But the thing is, he's all about smack talking. Half the time, he doesn't really realize what he's a part of, and those were always fun moments, I think. Just, I do got to give it up to Diane, one of the other prison guards, played by Eddie
Yeah.
Falco. Because
Yeah,
she's like one of the few who doesn't get bought, but she's always like, yeah, something's up.
She's basically an HBO mainstay, and then she went
Yep.
and did Showtime for Nurse Jack.
Mm-hmm. Whenever. What's so funny, she didn't realize that Avatar 2 had even come out. And it finally did, because she's like, I filmed that, 5 years ago.
Wow,
It's finally
that
out.
is pretty impressive, though.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And it is wild how it's like
They're very close to the one.
the worst thing she does is just like get in an adulterous affair with the counselor, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty good, because everyone else is pretty much compromised, shocking prisoners, or doing something else crappy. This was like one of the last few shows for me that, I mean, along with the show that kind of had the filmed on a camcorder kind of digital look.
Yeah, definitely.
Or the overexposed light, but it's not because it's hackneyed or independent. It's just they're just trying to give you that real time kind of feel. What would a camera equivalent of your eye kind of look like looking at something you're not supposed to see?
Yeah, it's that
Grit, dirty. Now, obviously, they've enhanced and everything, but they did so good at it at making it look like legit. Oh man. And that's right. They did have Lord Jamar, the rapper, play Supreme Allah with the dreadlocks. Forgot about that.
Yeah, the one thing I like about doing a rewatch of a show is, now that I think about it, and recently, it's always product placement.
There is some fun product placement.
I mean, I really do enjoy it. It's either very relevant or it's just offbeat.
Totally. And I like how the governor Devlin is fretting with prison time also, because they're like, yeah, he's defunding these prisons, so everyone's being treated poorly. I love how what's his name? Obviously we can't not talk about Rogers, the guy who gets a spoon in his ass.
Don't remember that.
It's implied, but you're just like, oof, I can only imagine. But then there's a few Breaking Bad guys here. There's Mark Margolis.
Yeah.
I loved Gloria, the nurse, how she's like, what is it this time? The sister played in a comeback role by sitcom queen Rita Moreno. They did a tribute to her recently. That this role always comes out when people talk about her. But the only beef I have is, you kind of figure yeah. The only issue I have is they killed Saeed way too quickly in the last season by that LaMille, played by dancer and singer and actor Joel Grey. He's playing a psycho who wants to find a reason to get sent to prison, and you're like, oh, he's pretending to be I mean, the concept is fine, but they did it so unexpectedly to where you're just like, it felt a little rushed. That needed a little more fleshing out. But I get it. It's not TV. But,
and you gotta think, back then they weren't really thinking multi-dimensional. They were just like, we're gonna give you X amount of characters in a show, and it's gonna have, each character progresses in their own way, and they'll have basic 3-dimensional evolution and nothing further. Whereas today, you have multi-levels of dimensional
the Game
evolution.
of Thrones Walking Dead crowd has ruined it.
Exactly.
Let's spoil, and that's all there is to it, versus there's at least 5 other things going on instead of
so one thing I love the most about doing a review on a season is that there's so much detail and there's so much character
one of these
shit
days
to remember. Yeah,
I will do a season 1 review. And other pals who have talked about this and love rewatching it every once in a while, I think it's just like you say, you settle into it versus what's my tone, what's my mood today.
Yeah, for real. Because if it's something you've never seen, I always bring this up when I do my book reviews. If you've never seen this book, if you don't know about it, if you don't know what the hell it is,
judge its cover.
Yeah, it's like, here, I'm showing you exactly what's inside this book, cover to cover. That way you can make a judgment for yourself if you want to buy it or not.
Bingo.
And 9 times out of 10, people have said that I have helped them decide on whether to buy it or not. I'm like, you're welcome.
Now kiss my ass.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man.
But no, it's nice doing that shit because, I'm not monetizing my channel. Fuck that shit. And I'm doing
more
all
trouble
this
than it's worth, actually.
Like, I don't give a fuck about being monetized. I really don't care for it. I'm doing this shit for free. I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it because it's entertaining.
I find when I mix business with fun, it ultimately becomes a second job, and I don't want to do that. It takes off.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you want to do something that's going to be exciting for you versus making it a chore. Because
Bingo.
if I did videos every fucking day and had a set schedule, it would drain the hell out of me. And it'd be a point of to where if you were like, "Hey, why don't you go and do a podcast?" And you're like, "Fuck, I can't. I'm doing work." And you're like, "Dude,
Yes.
you're letting it get to you again." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm having fun. You don't sound like you're having fun. Fuck you. I know what I'm doing." And then I leave you. And you're like, "What the fuck did I do wrong?" Like, nothing.
Don't make your world its own prison.
Bingo. And another quote that I heard the other day. You want to surround yourself with people that build you up. If you surround yourself with people that don't, you put yourself in a cage. And I was like, holy fuck, that is heavy.
Yeah, there's no getting out of a cage.
Yeah. Or no, it was like, look at the people you surround yourself with. Do they lift you up or do they keep you in a cage? And I was like, wow, that's really deep.
We've almost fallen into it a few times here.
Yeah, I've done that numerous times. I surrounded myself with people and put myself in a fucking cage. I mean, hell, recently I deleted Twitter off my phone.
Damn.
Yeah. I'll put it back on eventually, but for now, I'm pretty good with it off my phone.
Yeah. So, was there any favorite songs you had on the show that weren't on the soundtrack? I mean, when they're playing basketball, there's a great Red Hot Chili Peppers deep cut that they put on there that really goes with kind of the toxic energy they're all kind of feeling.
That whole show is toxic.
It is, but I thought that was just like a perfect song insert somewhere in like season 4 or 5, and I just thought it was cool because it summed up how they're making all their hostility into a fun spectacle, and then afterwards they're either gonna be like great game and shank one another, or be like close to each other, or
See, I gotta look at the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's the problem. It wasn't on the main commercially released soundtrack. It would have been perfect. Instead, it was only rap. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, there's some great rap music.
Yeah, definitely. Are you serious? Motherfucker. Oh, I hid the song this right. Because after a time, I get tired of some songs and I end up hiding them. And yeah, I do. I hide them on iTunes because I'm like, I don't care for these fucking songs. They get on my nerves after a while. Let's see. The whole soundtrack, I really loved it. It was so good. Not gonna deny it.
A real sleeper, kind of like the show. You're like, why is no one talking about these deep jams?
Let's see. What You In For by Wu-Tang Clan. That was good.
Yes.
What Is the Law? Pharaoh Monk. Love that.
Deep stuff.
And I Live, Cypress Hill. And War With Us with 3-6 Mafia in the chat. Yeah, I like that soundtrack. It's damn fucking good.
Yeah.
That came out in 2001, so that was 4 years after the show stuff was on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Behind the Walls, too. That was another.
Yeah, I got a music video and played on MTV. Yeah, it came in at the right time, and then kind of like for some reason, it's kind of like one of those shows. It's considered good for the most part for most people, but so many people kind of didn't keep up with it. They forgot it was on after like season 3 or whatever, and it's like, really?
It's a perfect example of when it's on.
There's some cool making of specials and featurettes too that don't get enough love either, and you're like, but they had to create this set, and they had to create their own rules. They had to. It wasn't about just shocking you. Obviously, there was but it's kind of like Archie Bunker. The right people get it.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast, That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man Podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. It's not The Office. A lot of people involved with that say they don't think they can make it now, and I'm going to reluctantly agree. I know they're kind of talking about comedy. Comedy will always be around, but I think what they're meaning is just
the organic chemistry that comes out of an original idea with the original cast. That's great shit.
And
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a prime example of how that doesn't work.
that is true. But to your earlier point, when you mix trying to make a buck with let's just see what can work, you know, there's a big ass difference between over marketing versus
Planet X.
podcast network that won't be named. Wow. Don't know her.
No. But no, going back to when the stuff wasn't on and people didn't know. That reminded me of Adult Swim with Inuyasha back in the day.
Oh man.
Because they would run the same fucking season on the Raku coming and he never fucking came. And I'm like, when the hell are you gonna get off these fucking reruns? And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, you lost the license to stream this shit. I get it now. That's what happened.
Absolutely.
And I was like, damn, because I remember I watched D. Gray Man on YouTube. First 52 episodes. I was like, hell yeah, this is great. Awesome. And it was all dubbed, and I was so happy. I was like, yeah. And then the other half of the series comes on, and it's all subtitled. I'm like, fuck. And then I found out Funimation lost the licensing to completely finish out the dub on it. I'm like, you suck. Because I
promised something, and you did.
Yeah, like I've watched a good one anime I talked to you about was Freezing, and that was on YouTube. And the pilot hooked me. It was fucking amazing. I was so hooked. I was like, this is perfect. And I waited. I started to get on episode 2, and that was not dubbed. And I was like, oh, shit. Let me wait, and then I'll buy it the next month. And I waited. I bought it. Worth the fucking wait. I was so excited doing that. And then I ended up buying the second season of it, too. Because I was like, this is such a good fucking series. No one's talking about it.
That's the worst, is when you want this to be bigger and yet no one's giving it a chance. You're just like...
Like, my introduction to anime was Toonami and also Annie Mondays on Sci-Fi Channel back in the day.
Oh, yes.
And nobody talks about Annie Mondays, because that was when they had the good shit on there.
I did see a bunch of stuff on there. Gundam.
Yeah, Gundam was on there. Your Name, Witch Hunter Robin was on there, and I think also Adult Swim. I got introduced to Cowboy Bebop, DBZ, obviously, GT, Wolf's Rain, Your Name was the other one that was really fucking popular. It was so underrated, and I can't remember what the hell it was called. But it was so goddamn good, and no one talked about this shit ever that I know of. But now you see a whole bunch of fucking reviews.
I was there when the towers fell. I'm like, no, you weren't.
I was there 3,000 years ago.
I was there. I was there.
And I always loved the concept of Annie Monday, because I was like, yeah, anime on Monday. Fucking A. Oh, Toko. That is vastly underrated. holy shit.
I bet.
I watched that on Annie Mondays and was hooked. And I was like, I have to buy this series. I need to see it again and again. And I bought the box set. And the first disc didn't want to play. And I was like, you son of a bitch. Then I had to hunt eBay and find a cheap copy that was gonna play, and I found a good bargain. I was like, hell yeah, that works. And it played,
In
and I'm
South
like, hey.
Korea, but not Japan.
No, I got super lucky with some of the shit I've bought over the years. God, there's so many deep cut anime out there, and all of it comes tying back to fucking Oz, because Oz has that shock value. It has that deep cut feel to it.
It would be interesting. It is kind of almost like an anime where it's kind of anti-TV. It's not meant to be accepted by the masses, but the right people love it. And yeah, it's cult
because you look at it and you have all these unique characters, and then you have, you know, your retrospective specials that come back talking about it. And some of the cast is there, some of them opted out, some of them passed away.
Yep.
And it's funny, but it's like also endearing too, because they're like, yeah, I didn't expect to be tapped for this.
That was an
project,
underrated part of the last season, just showing all the ghosts who are talking, getting their final say. They're like, hey, someone's going to join us. I wonder who. But that is true. I do like the anime contrast, because it is kind of the Sam's Club effect, where you would find these shows and it's like, hey, this is meant to be consumed by people who want kind of a spiritual experience. I mean, I wanted to see this, and I'm sure if I brought it up at school, I would have had some immature prick going, oh, you're gay, and you want to see people naked. And it's just like, I just want to see a good TV show, but whatever.
Word.
Fuck
Dude,
you.
I got yanked up in middle school for reading by my teacher and she chewed out my mother, and I hate my mother.
Oh,
Shit, I got chewed out for reading Homicide, Life on the Street, A Year of Killings on the Streets.
Even though it's an educational book.
Yeah, this was 7th grade. I got yanked up for reading it because it was too graphic. It was graphic. Not gonna lie, like it was fucking graphic for that time. But I was also watching the show at that age.
Oh wow!
And yeah, I was watching Law and Order. I was watching Homicide. I was watching ER. I watched whatever the hell was on TV. And back then, Beck didn't give a shit. Whereas now it's whatever. But I ain't getting into the whole.
We value our time, ladies.
I know it'll
gents.
be like a 2-hour podcast. Like, Jesus Christ, this was great about Oz. This motherfucker's talking about his fucking mom.
Fuck you, mom.
Fuck you, bitch. I hate you so much.
I mean,
but
that's what they also got good too. I liked how when you never knew who was going to visit these guys. Sometimes it wasn't even a baby mama or a parent. Sometimes it would just be like a reporter or a justice lawyer's like, Saeed, I believe in you. And you're like, well, he'll use you, but for a totally different cause. It's to some of it's for his Muslim, being proud of who his heritage and everything. The rest is like, oh, I'm going to make a stand. I mean, the fact that you got an IRA guy who somehow smuggled in a bomb in like season 3, and then, I mean, they took over the prison in the first season finale and then resolved it in season 2, 2-part premiere. And just like, that was something. Who does that? It just takes over a fucking prison and all the guard. And you can go for either side. You can either feel sorry for the crooked guards, or you can feel sorry for some of them who are actually trying to have a reasonable prison. Just like it is that
I just want to treat my inmates with respect.
You needed a counselor, though. You really did, because had they not have him, there wouldn't have been any kind of voice of just what's going to change. You would have felt like they're all beyond help, and you needed something to balance up. That's the other thing, because like TV nowadays will have kind of just one tone, but it'll just feel kind of deficient. It'll kind of feel generic. It's like, I need there to be a cynical voice, then I need to be a voice of reason, and then I need to be a guy who's kind of an anti-hero. Like, he's a cool guy, but he's bending the law.
That's literally that whole point there. That's literally 2000s TV with the young adult demographic shows of The Hills, fucking The Simple Life. with
Yeah, the MTV crowd definitely ruined it.
yeah,
for us.
the whole MTV generation.
Music wouldn't have anything to do with the concept. You're just like,
and just the real world blowing up, and I'm like, it was all fucking staged anyway. Like, who fucking cares? No, it's not. I'm like, no, you
I was
threw a
on
bunch
Cheaters. I can tell you for a fact, all reality TV is staged. I had heard it before I was on that fucking thing.
I need to see your episode with that shit. I have to see that.
I promise I will send it to you.
I just like, damn, he looks good with that. Let me really rate this as a real professional here. Was he scary? Was it even real? Did it even frighten me?
You might.
How were the cheaters?
Warning: you might want to kick me in the face when we're done. It's been always a delight having you on here, buddy.
We're done. No.
Yes.
An hour? Are you fucking kidding me?
I gotta go into the next chat. I gotta
God damn you.
Why?
I'm on a roll. This is twice you killed my roll.
Okay, then I'll do it. Then I'll do it later. On another chat.
You can go. Jesus Christ. You're such a prick. I'm gonna kick you in the face now.
Okay. Order.
Go to Oz, motherfucker.
Go to. I actually would do that to our parakeet back when he was alive. It was like when he was making a scene. I would slam the cage and it'd be like, "Welcome to Oz."
Tweet.
Tweet.
Yeah, rattle his little claws against the cage.
No, it wasn't physical. I was just bashing the thing, just saying, "Welcome to Oz. Welcome to the spoon." So I think I got the right email. I'll try to have longer chats. Don't worry.
I know. I just didn't expect this to be so short. Like, I'm on a roll. Like, this is
that should be your rap name. Too short.
Get copyrighted. Like, who the fuck are you? Too short. Well, that's my name.
We need to do just an amateur wrestling thing and do an actual like reserve a pay-per-view and see if anyone just shows up, and then invite our other pals who know MMA and just see what happens. See if anyone just shows up.
That would be funny as hell.
Oh, absolutely. And we could even just market it that way, from people who are big fans of this anime, from people who peered on reality crap like this, like cheaters. See if anyone just shows up. Is like, who wants to see an amateur pay-per-view? Who has cable still? Check us out.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, like, speaking of that shit, somebody, the last thing I remember on Twitter was somebody posted they saw Doom Part 2 3 times. And
who has free? So they've seen it for 9 hours now.
Yeah, it was funny. They saw it, and the guy was like, they said they saw it on their laptop illegally. I'm gonna be sick. I'm like, who fucking cares, dude? I've been pirating for 20 years.
Yeah. So in other words, they didn't get the real experience.
I mean, it's a budget.
I don't think you have to see everything in the theater, but if it's a big scale movie like Lawrence of Arabia, Apocalypse Now worthy, it's like, yeah, no, that's got to be seen on big screen.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Definitely.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of action I watch that doesn't excite me, and a lot of horror I don't find scary at all, because I'm just like,
just horror today is so down.
I have lost a lot of friends who are snobs, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, dude. This feels like it was made by a pedophile. Sure enough, Creepers. It was made by a pedophile. Fortunately, a lot of the actors on Oz don't seem to have had any fender benders with. That is wild how a lot of them had to actually go to counseling. They were playing the roles too seriously.
Speaking of that, you remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right?
Correct. Christopher Lloyd.
Was it Bob Hoskins? No, not Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins, yeah.
Yeah. He had to go to therapy too, because he kept seeing Roger Rabbit. And he had to go to therapy because he kept seeing all the characters and hearing their voices and shit.
Are you sure it wasn't because he did Super Mario Brothers?
No, it wasn't that. No.
What was this?
I love that fucking movie. I don't care what it says.
We all love bad movies, dude. I love Ballistic Ecks vs. Sever. voted
I
one
just
of the
want the
worst.
police car from Super Mario Brothers. I found it. I found that fucking thing, but I can never find it for a good price. The highest someone was selling it was $500, and then
I'll get some other podcasters, and you guys will split the price, and then you'll have to all ship it to each other, saying, "Okay, I'm taking a photo of it with me. Now I'll sell it to you, but you gotta give me."
The cheapest one I saw years later was like $150. I'm like, that's better.
Closer, warmer,
Yeah,
potentially
like,
better. Yeah.
That's affordable, I guess, but I'm kind of broke still.
At least you're not in prison.
Yeah, for real.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a